Oi, you're tuned in to Jai That Aussie Metal Guy, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his sick content. And remember, stay brutal, you legend.
G'day, how are you all going? It's Jai That Aussie Metal Guy here with Crank.com. And tonight, wherever you are, with great pleasure, we are getting to have a chat with John Yelland from Judicator, power metal band out of the US, a band that I have been digging for the last few years with the Let There Be Nothing album that came out in Prosthetic Records a few years ago. But I think he's like 6 albums in or something like that. So this is an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, John.
Yeah, super happy to be here, man. Thank you.
Nah, thank you, man. First off, dude, can you tell me a little bit about where this all began for you?
Personally or the band?
The band, dude.
The band is actually kind of a funny story. The band was founded by myself and Alicia Cordisco, who's now in a project called Transgressive. We met at a Blind Guardian concert in Tempe, Arizona in 2010, and we just hit it off. I gave her a demo or an EP or something of my band at the time called Dysphoria, and we built up a good rapport and kind of a friendship over social media. And 2 years later, we kicked out our first album as Judicator proper.
Yeah, did they start off as like, correct me if I'm wrong, did they start off kind of like a more of a studio project, did it? Or
Yeah, so originally, if my memory serves me right, we only had the intention of doing the one album.
Okay.
And it was going to be a project. And basically Alicia, myself, and maybe whoever else wanted to hop on. But it wasn't until I think the third album, At the Expense of Humanity, where it was like, okay, like this is actually making some waves and people are actually enjoying this more, that we decided to make it more of a proper band. And we played sometime shortly thereafter our first performance at DeLand Rock and Metal Festival in Florida. So yeah, from that point forward, we've been performing intermittently. I wouldn't say we're like a super big touring act, but we definitely get out and play whenever we can.
Oh, definitely. And you kind of did allude on there, you were playing with Dysphoria before. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you kind of joined in Judicator.
Yeah, Dysphoria was, I think, the first band that I was in that I really took seriously. We put out some music beforehand leading up to our debut and only full-length album that we ended up releasing. But we got Hansi Kirsch to do guest vocals for a song on that called The Dying Firmament. And that was the start of I don't know if friendship is the right term, that might be too charitable, but a friendly acquaintanceship with Hansi Kirsch that I've had over the years. We got Hansi to come back on Judicator's album, The Last Emperor.
That was The Last Emperor, yes. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was the track Spiritual Treason, wasn't it, as well?
Exactly, yeah. So, and you know, who knows? I'd love to work with him again. We'll see what the future holds on that, I guess.
Yeah, well, I gather you're a big fan of Blind Guardian meeting and kind of starting this project out of a Blind Guardian gig as well. So what was that like, getting the opportunity to work with Hansi as well?
Well, so I mentioned it started with Dysphoria, and I kind of just took a few stabs in the dark, and I managed to get my foot in the door. And when I woke up in the morning and got the first email from Hansi that, like, okay, he's interested, he wants more information, like, it was completely, I thought I was dreaming. It was a complete shell shock. And then as far as working with him 2 times, once on Dysphoria, once with Judicator, I just never thought that I would have the opportunity to work with him again. So I was shell shocked again, although a little bit less so the second time.
Yep. So one of the themes that are quite present with Judicator is definitely your love of history, you know, starting out with the King of Rome and Sleepy Plessau, jumping into the Last Emperor, Let There Be Nothing, the Majesty of Decay. Tell us a little bit about kind of where that love and passion for history comes from. I get it because I'm a big history buff as well. So that's probably one of the reasons I was really drawn to Judicator and the themes on your albums as well.
Yeah, I mean, our thing is that every album we release is a concept album. Most of them, as you mentioned, are historical. It didn't start out that way. That
Yeah.
not what we intended from the get-go, but it just kind of went that way. When we put together King of Rome, I was really into the 1970 movie with I forget his name. But anyway, Waterloo, the 1970 movie Waterloo, which I highly recommend. It's a fantastic movie. And they don't make them like they used to. And this is totally case in point. But I was really hot on that movie and Empire Total War, Napoleon Total War, the video games. So for me, it was pretty much a shoe-in that the first album would be about Napoleon and his return from exile, the Battle of Waterloo. Um, after that album, I continued to just be really interested in that time period. And I was returning from a party the night before, and I slept in my car in a Barnes and Noble parking lot. And I wanted some coffee. Barnes and Noble has coffee, so I went in and I got some coffee to sober myself up a little bit and get warmed up. And I just perused books, and I found a book about the Prussian state, and I ended up buying that book because I was so fascinated with Frederick the Great. Thumbed through it and was reading about him, and I'm like, how did I not know about this guy before? And so then, deciding on that as a subject for Sleepy Plesso, it just kind of became the thing from that point forward that we would focus on history and sometimes do a personal album that is totally unrelated.
Yes.
And I think I like the pattern. The pattern so far has been 2 historical albums, 1 outlier, 2 historical albums, 1 outlier. Maybe we'll keep that going.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And you did kind of touch on that. You'd had that 2 kind of historical albums, and you jumped into to quite a probably a really personal album for you at the expense of humanity as well, which I've really connected to as well with that the reasons behind that. Can you tell me a little bit about what kind of that album in general?
Yeah, I mean, At the Expense of Humanity is a very special album. It recounts my experiences with my oldest brother struggling with fighting and dying of cancer. And, there's a whole lot of family drama that happened. And it's interesting because when it did happen, I was, of course, very sad, but I think I swept a lot under the rug. I think
Yeah.
maybe it was too much for me to handle. When we were sort of processing the 3rd album and what it might be about, I tried on a few different subjects for the album to be about, and nothing was really quite clicking. But when I started writing the lyrics for God's Failures, it just all started coming out, and I'm getting goosebumps now.
Yeah.
But that's when I was like, all right, I it's scary because I don't want to do it. I don't want to write an album about this.
No.
But it's what came naturally. And I think that is an album that I don't know if we can ever quite replicate, because the music that Alicia wrote was like perfect in how moody, depressive, and expressive it was. And, I don't want us to be a super duper depressing band, so I wouldn't want to do something like this ever again anyways. But yeah, it was a lightning in the bottle.
It would have been a very cathartic
album.
experience, and I only wanted to touch on this because I spent last year myself battling cancer. I was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer at the beginning of last year, and I spent most of last year going through chemotherapy, radiotherapy. I've had 2 major surgeries. I've actually got a ileostomy in at the moment because they just done a bowel resection on the 18th of December as well. So I totally understand kind of why you done this album and what a time it would have been for you and how hard it would have been to process, and to be able to put this down in an album would have been a really cathartic experience. And I tell you, your brother would be looking down very, very bloody proud of you for continuing on, because, I know myself that, losing someone and going through a tough time like that, they would not want you to just give up and, you know what I mean, just stop doing what you're doing. That's not what, so, to be able to use that as a motivation to push through and to make something beautiful for your brother as well, it really does stand the test of time. So kudos to you for making that album as well, mate. Let's jump into that next one. You did jump into the last opera that was about the Crusades as well. Tell us a little bit quickly about making that album.
You say quickly, so I'll try to condense it.
Oh, quickly, take as long as you want, my friend. We've got all the time in the world.
No, that's fine. Just that album was another one that was kind of slowly decided upon. I there's no really fun stories about why we chose that. I think really it was just I was curious. I was curious about the mindset behind crusading and what what was the mentality. So I read a book that was actually explicitly about that, like why people went on the crusades. And I read a couple of books that pertained to the first crusade and the crusades in general, and I just thought it was a great topic that fit the sort of bombastic and fast kind of nature of the music that Alicia had written. So yeah, I think it was a great fit.
Yeah, it's a great album. The Crusades, as you kind of touched on there, I think the Crusades were a very, I don't know, a point in history where kind of set us up to where we're still battling this same crap religions against each other. And, you know, in a sense, Crusades still happening from that point on, if you kind of look at the way history has been, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of angles you can look at it, but there's a lot to learn from the Crusades and experiences like it.
And from
So
history
yeah,
in
I think
general.
you're right.
And from history in
Yeah.
general, that's probably what gets so excites me. Looking back on history, you can learn a lot of lessons and what is happening today, you know, not to mention the great stories that you kind of hear as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and you know, you find unexpected heroes and unexpected villains, and it's not always who you think. And you know, you look on the Christian side and the Muslim side, there were heroes and villains on both sides. And I think that's kind of what the album ends up trying to paint, is
Yep.
that we get narratives about certain things in history, and those narratives are often given to you by somebody else. And I think that the nuances show there's a lot more going on under the hood, so to speak.
Yep.
So, you know, I think the album did a good job of exploring that.
Yeah, and I do go touch on the sound. I want to talk about the sound a little bit. The power metal, man. I absolutely love power metal and the voice and what you do with some of the music. I sent over one of the tracks the other day. I think you had the sax and that as well, and it was just bloody real, man. I think that was I can't remember which track it was. I sent it to a mate of mine. I'm like, check this out, dude, and he was going to jump in and do the podcast with me as well today. He's like a co-host of mine. But he was blown away, man. He's like, this is some of the coolest stuff I've heard in a while, dude. Tell us a little bit about constructing your instrumentations and then, you know, your vocal delivery. You have this amazing vocal delivery, which just is bloody unreal.
Oh, thank you. You said the song had saxophone in it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was probably the High Priestess or
That's the one,
Metamorphosis.
High Priestess,
Yeah.
dude. That one rocked, dude.
That song's interesting. I mean, so
Yes.
from our last album, The Majesty of Decay,
Yep.
Alicia, who I've mentioned a number of times, she left the band after Let There Be Nothing, and there was a question about should we continue to, because she was the primary songwriter. So
Yep.
it's like, okay, should we continue to try to write music like she did, or should we do our best to be true to ourselves and write music that that we feel is, you know, authentic and organic? We
Yep.
went with the latter rather than the former, and this is what we came up with. So there are songs on The Majesty of Decay which are not like what you've heard before, but they're a little closer. I wanted our lead single for New Judicator to be Ursa Major, because I think that's more close to the traditional Judicator sound.
Yep.
But our drummer at the time, Jordan Elsess, was like, no, I really think we should do the High Priestess because it's totally different. It's going to challenge people. It's really catchy. And he convinced us. So we not only ended up making that our lead single, we did a music video for this song, which if you've seen it, it's pretty fun and wild. But it was,
you can feel that, dude. Like I'm watching that and I can feel that energy and oh man, that was so cool. And it's good seeing a first reaction from other people as well when they first hear it. It's kind of their jaw kind of drops as well. Like my mate, his jaw dropped and he was just, man, this is like some heavy metal Chicago shit, man. He's like, this is unreal. And then he sent a message later on that day. He's like, Judicator are fucking awesome.
the split that we had with Alicia had some contention with it or whatever, and that's natural.
Yeah.
But there were people out there who I think were excited to see what we did next, and there were people out there just like waiting for us to fail. And so when we released the High Priestess, I think that worried a lot of people because they were like, is this the direction they're going? Like, is this? And then there were people I think who were like, yep, told you so. Judicator's dead. So I think the reality is somewhere in the middle, not with Judicator being dead, but I can't imagine us, and I wouldn't want to rip off Alicia Cordisco's songwriting and stuff. It would just, if we're going to do something, I want it to be natural. But as far as your original question, like instrumentation and coming up with vocal phrasing and stuff, with vocal phrasing, really it's when we do the music first, and when the music is basically done, then I go through and I start just listening to the song over and over again, getting a feeling for it, and then eventually I'll come up with shibida beep bop beep ba boo ba bop bop bop, and I transcribe that nonsense into something that I can like establish a phrasing or whatever you would call it, and then I go in and I fill it with lyrics afterward. So I enjoy that process. It feels very organic, and I don't want to. I've never been the type to go through and like methodically write vocal lines and stuff according to like music theory and whatnot.
Yep.
I'm not a super. I can read notation, but I'm not a music theory major. I didn't go to school for it. And then as far as the instrumentation goes, the Majesty of Decay was really fun because we had. I wrote all of the music for that album over the course of many years. And so I had a lot of time to edit and refine everything. And some of the songs which were written later, like since Alicia departed, like Metamorphosis, From the Belly of the Whale, Judgment, those songs, I don't know. I thought it was so much fun to. We had an opportunity to create something completely new. And so writing it, I'm like, what if we put a saxophone solo here? And then we can't do that. It would be actually, you know what? Why the hell not? This is what we want to do. We finally have backing from a record label. So let's put a saxophone there. Why not? Let's put a real, not programmed, a real brass band here. I think we took some risks on the Majesty of Decay, which were polarizing and certainly weird and don't match up with the rest of our discography. But I'm so happy that we did it because it's so much fun.
Yeah, and it's good to push yourself as an artist as well. You don't want to keep bringing out, okay, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to bring out the same album every single time. It's probably not staying true to yourself as a musician and an artist as well. And fuck, saxophone and heavy metal tracks, dude. I've heard some sax and some great metal tracks, from black metal to some death metal, man. Like power metal, like it just fits so damn bloody well. And as you said, that was very fun, that film clip as well. I challenge anyone that hasn't seen it to go watch it and tell me they don't think that's a fun ass track. And to think people are like listening to that and go, oh, is this the death of Judicator? I don't know, man. People need to stop thinking like that as well, man, because that was a killer album as well and a killer track too. Let's jump into this one here, man. I will share the screen for this one. The Barry Manilow cover, dude. I had this one sent over. Dude, I had this one sent over from John. And I ripped that out, cranked it up on my show because I do a bit of internet radio as well. Absolute ripping cover. Tell us a little bit about that track and kind of why you went with this one.
We released it as a single because it didn't really fit anywhere. I really enjoy the Panos Cosmatos movie called Mandy with Nicolas Cage, Andrea Riseborough. It's a really fun, weird movie. I recommend it if you haven't seen it already. But I also like Barry Manilow, and I'm like, oh, Mandy and Mandy. Like, I wonder if we could merge these two together somehow. And so I tried my best to make a version of Mandy that felt like the movie Mandy.
Yep.
And when we shot the High Priestess music video, we had the rest of the day. And so I thought, let's just go ahead and throw together another music video. And so we kicked out Mandy. It's not like, it's nowhere near the level of well thought out and production value that the High Priestess is, or even the Majesty of Decay for that matter. But I think it's a nice little music video. But the song, I love the song. I'm very happy we did the song, even if it doesn't really fit anywhere.
Can you imagine people like what they'd really say if you brought out the High Priestess, then you brought out Mandy straight after and gone, here you go, guys.
Welcome to the Judicator. Yeah, people.
Judicator. I actually really dig it, dude. I dig all your stuff. It must be fun to kind of dive into these covers as well and kind of do something a little bit different as well and a little bit fun.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we just released an EP too as well called I Am the Void, in which we did a Blind Guardian cover and an original, which is like 9 minutes long, if I remember right.
Yeah, 9 minutes, exactly.
Good. Yeah. And so this is another thing where it's like, you know, our Patreon supporters voted on a cover for us to do. They chose The Curse of Feanor by Blind Guardian. And then we also had this song, I Am the Void, which I had been working on for a while with Austin Bentley, who was in Dysphoria with me. And we just finished out this song and we decided to release it as an EP because, again, it doesn't really fit with the Majesty of Decay or the new album that we are writing. So we figured let's release Mandy and I Am the Void. We'll release them close together, so it's kind of their own little thing. And then when the new album comes out, we'll have the Majesty of Decay and the new album, and people can be like, so this is kind of where Judicator's going.
And it's good to have that music to kind of release in between as well, because people like fucking streaming platforms, I know everyone kind of listens to it, but don't forget, people, if you like an album, go fucking buy it. That's where I stand on that as well. It's kind of good to have that music for, you know, YouTube and Spotify, and fucking keep those algorithms rolling over as well, and kind of keep people hyped up towards a new album, as you mentioned there. So how's that going, working on a new album there?
We are taking a little bit longer time than we originally anticipated to produce this next album, which I think is going to be a good thing in the long run. The Majesty of Decay is a long album. This next album is going to be shorter. We're going to try to keep it 43 to 48 minutes at the most. We're just waiting on 1.5 songs to be done, and then we're going to start recording drums here. Probably March would be my guess. The next album, which we are working on, is going to be 8 tracks, I think, and it's not going to be as crazy and out there as the Majesty of Decay. We really hit hard with the Majesty of Decay, and we really went kind of out there, and we're going to kind of bring it in a little bit more. We want to release a shorter album, one that's a little more straightforward, a little bit back to our roots. Though again, I can't tell you that this is going to be like, the Last Emperor 2.0 or At the Expense of Humanity 2.0. It's going to be its own thing, but
yeah, no, would you want it to be a 2.0? You want it to be its kind of own thing as well. That's kind of one good thing with these albums that you make. They kind of all stand on their own as well, and that's kind of probably what you want as well, yeah?
Yeah, and there's still going to be some experimentation. There's one song off this new album we're working on where there's going to be kind of a hoedown section.
Hell fuck yeah.
It's one of those things again where, like, if I told you we were going to release a song that had influences of like big band and like big brass section, you'd be like, are you sure about that? Like, that doesn't sound like it's going to work. I think it works. I'm really happy with it, and I feel the same about.
I'm probably the rare person that would be like, that's going to work, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome, dude. I did kind of notice that on social media, kind of alluding towards the new album as well, as you mentioned, but also something about another cover maybe you're working on for the future there, yeah?
Yeah, so if you join our Patreon at the $10 level and higher, then every
What's the link for
year, I think it's patreon.com/Judicator-Metal.
There you go. There you go.
Let me
People
double
jump
triple
on.
check. Yeah, patreon.com/Judicator-Metal. Yeah, so we once per year have a vote on a cover song for us to produce. The Curse of Feanor was the first one, and Dancing Queen by ABBA is the second one. So
Damn, there you go. See, a lot
Yeah,
of
there
you,
you
a
go.
lot of you fans up on Patreon have got to be loving the stuff that you're doing, like High Priestess as well. They love Judicator, the music you bring, but they also really enjoy the tracks that you do like that
Yeah.
as well. Obviously, to vote for ABBA Dancing Queen, I'm actually looking forward to that one as well. That one's going to be a lot of fun to make. Yeah.
I think it'll be a lot of fun. I have music video ideas, but I'm not sure if we will invest the time and money to do a music video for that.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, no worries. Have you got any live shows coming up or anything else like that you'd like to plug?
We are going to be performing in 2025, our debut European show.
Oh, wow, dude.
A festival. We're going to be performing at Epic Fest
Oh,
in
nice.
2025.
Oh, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's something we've never done before. It's something we've dreamt about doing our entire lives, or our entire lives in music. And so, being given the opportunity to come over to Denmark and perform at this metal festival is a dream come true in every sense of the word. And the fact that we are being given a lot of support to do it from the organizers, and not to give anything away, but the pay is better for this than any show we've been paid for in the US. So it's no surprise, I think, based on this experience, that there are so many more metal bands in Europe than in the United States.
There's so many great bands over in Europe, and also the US, Australia, everywhere in the bloody world. But Europe, it tends to be that metal is more mainstream, you know what I mean? And the festivals get a lot more people going to it, and like bands like In Flames are actually getting Grammys and awards from their country and things like that. And you see America and Australia, where we've kind of like metal is kind of kicked to the curb a little bit at times, and it shouldn't be. We have so many great metal and hard rock bands. It's just absolutely amazing. And for you to score a slot over there on a European festival as well must be really exciting, because those crowds go fucking nuts, and they're going to love Judicator over there, as it'll be able to play some crowds that actually like some decent crowds.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that it's a great experience. I really think it will be.
Yeah, I've seen some power metal bands from Australia get over there and play some of these festival bands. Some good bands from Australia in general get over to some of those festivals, and they've always kicked on about how bloody good it is to play to these European audiences as well.
Hell yeah, good.
Yeah. And once you get over there, kind of play, I suppose once you play that, it kind of opens up the door to other appearances as well, European shows for you.
That's really what we're hoping. I have no expectations that Judicator is going to become the next Iron Maiden or Metallica or anything like that. I understand that, our potential it has a ceiling at some place based on our lives, the industry, et cetera, et cetera. But if I could wave my magic wand, but also thinking realistically, I would love it if we put everything we have into this performance at Epic Fest. We do a damn good job. We do a good job coinciding our album release with Epic Fest, and we just maximize everything. And then from that point forward, maybe festival organizers see, Judicator actually can come over to Europe. Maybe we can invite them, and maybe we haven't done so in the past because they're not like a huge level band or a medium. I don't know. I would love to see more opportunities come as a result from this, and I think that will happen.
Oh, definitely. And also the fans play a big part in it as well, i.e. jumping over to the YouTube channel, liking, cranking the hell out of the clips, buying albums over at like your Bandcamp and your website and stuff, and getting onto your Patreon. It all bloody helps to push, Judicator's music even further, and for festival organizers to look at that kind of stuff and go, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? So the fans don't realize that they kind of are the extra member of the band these days, especially more so than anything. I did touch on it, the streaming. It's great to get those streams up and everyone stream it till the cows come home, but also like mentioned Bandcamp, and you mentioned the Patreon as well. Jumping over and really supporting bands is kind of what helps keep this scene really strong, and people getting along to shows when you are playing, buying tickets, buying merch, because it isn't just streaming. People, it isn't just the streaming platforms that kind of support the bands. It's buying albums.
Yeah, I am very grateful for the support that we have. We don't have a huge Patreon by any means. We don't have huge income from our merch and album sales and stuff, but we have enough that it really helps make things like this possible. And
like making new albums.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, because bands like yourself, every dollar you get kind of goes into a fund to make the bloody next album, people. So it's all about, that chain and keeping it all going. Look, John, this has been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you, talk more about Judicator. I have really, really appreciated your time. Hopefully get to chat with you in the future about the latest album coming out. Do you have any last words, shout outs, thank yous, or anything else you'd like to add in there, my friend?
Yeah, just thank you to yourself, John Asher, for, to my understanding, making this happen. And as far as plugs go, I would say if you check out Judicator and you enjoy what you hear, find us on Patreon, patreon.com/judicatormetal, or just search us, you'll find us. And consider hopping on. We have some fun rewards that I think will be appealing to you.
Definitely. You want to chuck this in the stereo and crank it up bloody really loud. The neighbors are going to want to hear it as well. Judicator, crank it up. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Oi, you know what time it is? You're tuned in listening to Dry That Aussie Metal Guy. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his content when it drops. And remember, stay brutal, you mad dogs. Roof!